And we are, there it is. We are live right now, but okay. Okay, good morning. Welcome to Educators Drinking Coffee. I'm Juan here. Today I have a special guest with me. We have Juvanda Crutch, and I'll let her just tell a little bit about herself.
Good morning. My name is Juvanda Crutch. I'm principal at Pasquotank County High School. This is my second year at Pasquotank County High School as a principal. I've been in education, I guess, for about 21 years now.
Wow. Yeah, I started thinking this week too. I started in 2001. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy how time has flown. Absolutely. Really is. Now, has your entire time been in Pasquotank or?
No, I started out in Pasquotank County right out of college, ECSU, Elizabeth City State University. I was a math major, so I started out as a math teacher. Did my student teaching at Northeastern High School, and then taught at Northeastern for 1 year. And then I went to Crutch probably for about 15 years. As a math teacher, instructional coach, and assistant principal for about 4 years as an assistant principal. And then I came back home to Elizabeth City.
That's awesome. I got my ECU t-shirt where we both met on our master's program. So very cool, very cool.
Yes.
So today, like I said, with Educators Drinking Coffee, we just talk about all things education. But before we begin, I am drinking coffee this morning. Let me tell you a little bit about this one. I'm not too fond of this one, to be honest with you. It's called Grand Cafe World Flavors. It's definitely not Colombian. It says rich Bavarian fudge brownie topped with sticky caramel, slow rusted nutmegs. To me, it's too much flavor. I like simple black coffee. The only flavor I like is the sugar that I put in it. But if you like sweet, this is a good one. I was trying to figure out where it's from. It says Bavarian, but it actually is, it's packaged in New Jersey. And from what I found out, it's just sold like at TJ Maxx and those kind of stores. But my wife likes it, so we keep it. What about yourself?
So I'm not a coffee drinker, but I figure I better put something. So this is tea because I don't drink coffee. So I don't know if you'll kick me out or what.
No. And really, we just say coffee. But the only problem I do have is you're drinking out of a Buffalo Bills mug. You know, I'm a Dolphins fan, and that. I knew there was something sometimes not quite right about you.
That's right. This is a shout out to my husband. Go Bills.
Oh man, I did not know. I did not know he was. I'll have to say something next time. So we're talking through this, and I tell people I started this in part because you and I attended a workshop about wellness and stuff, and I just wanted to do something for myself. Mm-hmm. For me, my days have just been clumped into one giant day, and I had to break things down. And my afternoons are pretty much the same way, but my mornings are what I have separated for myself. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what do you do to take care of yourself during these times?
So I do a couple different things. I make sure I read my devotionals every day in the morning. And so I set about 20 minutes to do that every morning and get that alone time. And for the past 6 weeks, I think I've worked out. I don't really see the difference, but I feel better. And so I've gotten up, I've worked out. I do like this Nike Training Club app just about every morning, and I've only missed probably 3 or 4 days over the last 6 weeks.
That's good.
Over the weekend, I used to be on the track team, so I'm a runner now. I don't know if you can consider me a runner now because I run so slowly, but I was on the track team in high school and I ran a short distance, but I think I'm a better long distance runner, or at least I enjoy that. Yeah. I don't know if I enjoy it more, but I have more think time. You can't think real hard on fast runs. But I'm a runner, and so that's why I've been logging some miles on the weekend. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I wish I could do that myself. I'm too inconsistent. I'm still trying to work with this couch to 5K, and it's been tough. It tells me like, hey, it's been a couple days. But Mr. Harold joined us this morning. He says, "Good morning, Mr. C, Ms. Crutch." Good morning, Mr. Harold. Yeah, he's a regular this morning. I got to bring him in. I got to bring him on one day.
Absolutely.
Well, good. So, how have you and your family kind of together gotten through this?
Well, let's see. So for my boys, I have two boys, and they are 9 and 11. So third grade and fifth grade, and we all struggle quite a bit because mommy still has to work, and people expect me to answer them when they call and when they in the meetings, and sometimes my boys need help. And I'm not the most organized person in the world. And so it was a real struggle in the beginning. So I had to kind of seek out help and figure out how other people try to do it. So then I started making lists for them and have them crossing things out and remind them, hey, you know how to find this. And so they've actually kind of gone separate ways. My youngest boy, he excelled in school in third grade. So he was always at one top or second in his class in anything. He's pretty highly motivated. But this transition for him has been a little bit difficult. I really think either he really likes the interaction of the classroom with the kids, or sometimes the work has not been at the same level. And so he's kind of disassociated. And so I have to yell at him a lot to get him going. And then my other one, he was not as motivated in class or school, but he's very independent now. He does most of his work by himself, and he doesn't need me. And so that's a big switch and change because I never expected that.
That's really good. Yeah, it makes me think about, during these times, you hear in the news, you read articles about the struggles we're having, but there is a group of students that are really thriving with this remote learning. And I think we have to pay attention because, as we try to meet the needs of all our kids, we got to pay attention to that group and figure out how we can, continue some of this. I don't know. For me, I don't know about 100%, but definitely there are kids thriving through this whole remote learning.
I think it's really important, just like you said, if we're ever able to come back again, how do you get the best of both worlds? It just reminds us that there is no one fix for everything. Even when we're in school, there's no one way, no one method, no one teacher that can do it all. It's trying to figure out how to meet the kids' needs. And so I kind of think my son that's excelling is because he needed a little bit more think time. Like, I don't think fitting into the teacher's time frame, sometimes I don't think it worked for him because he was always getting called home because he didn't finish things. And I know that he had a pretty good understanding of things, but I think his think time, he just needs more of it. And so because he's kind of being able to do it in his own time, I think that's what's causing him to excel. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's one of the things.
Yeah, I do. You have two boys, I have two girls. And my biggest, I guess, thing I feel bad is just their friends. Especially the oldest for me, she's going into high school now. And so she has a cell phone. So I know, and she can communicate. Her friends have social platforms, whatever they do, but the little one doesn't. And before they were doing live sessions with their teacher, but their schooling has ended here where I live. And now we enter a period, which normally happens, where they don't see much of their friends. But in the past, we've been able to call and set up, a sleepover or whatever it is. But now for the next, at least another 10 weeks, that's not going to happen. I do worry about my little one for that.
That's a good point, because you're absolutely right. My oldest has a cell phone and the youngest does not. And I notice when they get on Google Meets, they try to get on early so they can talk to their friends and kind of laugh and play. And then the teacher comes and shuts all that down.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point. I will say that that's not one of the things that we thought about. We now realize, well, some of us realized before, but how important that contact and that communication is with friends, teachers.
It is. And I think they didn't realize it either. I think they're realizing now how much that plays a part. It was just coming to school is always just something you do. It's automatic. That human contact is a piece. I think we're all. I mean, I could see it every time we go and we're able to see somebody we haven't seen. Everybody's eyes light up, whether it's student, teacher, whatever it may be. Very good. So we're talking about all this now, but let's go back a little bit around March 13th. As you lead a school, you find out we're going to go to remote learning or we're going to close schools. What's your thought process? What are your concerns?
So it's kind of funny how we refer to March 13th as this, I don't know, D-Day.
I know. It's true.
Right. But I will tell you, I think we met the administrative team for ECPPS either the day before or a couple days before. And so we knew something more than likely was coming. I believe the state said that they're looking into it, but that we were going to be in school on Monday. And I had a meeting with the staff that Friday. And I remember telling them that you probably need to make sure you take everything that you think you might need. And some of them were a little freaked out. But I said, we have to kind of think about the patterns that we see. And there's no telling. And then sure enough, I think it was Friday afternoon or Saturday, it announced that we were closed for at least 2 weeks. I did know at that time in my heart that there's no way we're just going to be closed for 2 weeks. This thing was going to be longer than that. But I had no idea that we would really be closing until the end of the year. It was scary. One of the reasons it's really scary is because of the inequity. And everybody doesn't have the same thing, doesn't have access to internet. Even sometimes teachers not having access to internet, partly because they live in remote areas. Everybody doesn't have the same experience with online learning or meetings. Sometimes it makes people really uncomfortable. It was just a lot of different variables. So it made it a little bit of a scary time. We did develop a plan, and teachers did a great job thinking about, okay, how am I going to try to go on during this time? And so because I think we offered flexibility, that's how everybody was kind of able to go on.
I agree. And I think one of the things I like that you did was we had a short notice, but to do the survey about connectivity or who has access to it or how they have access to it. For now, we have that documentation now, moving forward, but, that helped us trying to navigate, who to focus on and things like that. It's such a weird time. It's like, you kind of knew something was happening, but not sure. And I guess we also didn't realize the effect it was going to have.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's, I think, the part that we underestimated the effect of the social distancing was going to have. Because I think everybody, to a certain degree now, is just kind of struggling. Almost, I wouldn't say we're crawling to the finish line, but we definitely have slowed down to get to the finish line now, just because everything's overwhelming. Which leads me, and I don't know your thoughts, I feel like now, this has shown some gaps in what we have. And it also, I think, has, and let me get your thoughts on this, shown that the importance of professional development, because now, the teachers who were great teachers have been brought down because of this is so different. They feel and they see their deficiencies. So just thinking about moving forward, what are some things you're thinking about to get us ready for the fall?
So a couple things, and I think of it from different points of view. Because we are in education, I think about the parents who never knew anything about Google Classroom, don't know anything about Canvas, don't know anything about any other platform that teachers use, and how difficult it must be for them, especially if they have multiple children at multiple levels. How can they, kind of navigate all of those things? But because I've heard of those things and used a few of them, It was not as difficult for me, other than managing all of it.
Yeah.
So for that reason, that's why next year our system is going to strictly Canvas, because at least from a parent perspective, it's not as confusing. It's just the one system. So you know whether you have an elementary student, a middle school student, or a high school student, it's still just going to be Canvas. Um, and that's great for the parent. For some of the educators that never used Canvas, and right now are just using an email system, it kind of is a little bit scary. And so that PD is really important. I think the other thing that's really important is the mind shift. I think some of us are on one side or the other. Either we think the online delivery is awesome or can be awesome, or we kind of dread it because we can't figure out how to make things work like they worked in my regular classroom.
Mhm.
And honestly, we have to. I'm a middle of the road type person. Basically, I don't really believe in extremes because I think everything takes balance. And so we have to take that stigma, some of us, away of, no, online learning can't possibly work. And the truth is, we got to make it work.
Mhm.
We don't have a choice. And I think we can if we think and talk about that balance. Like, what are some of those elements in the classroom that we can carry over and semi replicate when you just have online?
Yeah. I mean, and I think you hit the nail on the head talking about balance. Um, I think moving forward, and that's about differentiation too. Just trying to figure out how we can balance. I think that's one thing it has exposed too is the ability to differentiate, to provide content different ways, to evaluate it, and things like that. So I want to kind of just move on to the next thing. I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about. Of course, we got the hot topic now is because we're coming up to the end of the year.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I didn't know if there's, anything you like to share about, Pasquotank's plan, and about, I know you have something coming up today too.
Mhm. And so, graduation. So, first of all, of course, all of us that are in education, we know how special graduation day is. I tell people all the time, everybody looks good, everybody feels good. It's like the most exciting day of the year. It's also the day that we've been preparing for 4 years or 5 years or however long that it's
Yeah.
taken. It's a day that everybody is happy and excited. And part of it is because we've seen the change, we've seen the growth, we've seen the struggle, and yet, kids are continually, making it to that mark. And so it's a super special day for any high school staff, principal, assistant principal, teacher. It's just wonderful. And so to have to go into or change graduation plans kind of as we know it, especially since the students haven't had all those other experiences, like they weren't able to have prom, they haven't had like senior weeks or senior skip day. I don't encourage senior skip day, I'm just saying. Um, all of those experiences that, they hear other people kind of talking about, they haven't experienced it. And I can't imagine being in that situation. It's kind of heartbreaking because they don't even really get a choice as far as, oh, how did I feel about this experience? Because they kind of skip that experience altogether. Um, with that being said, again, I can't imagine. Has to be kind of heartbreaking because so many people that do have that experience, but we have to make sure that we just do the best we can to create some other experience around it, and making sure that we take care of each other. And so we released our graduation plan on last Friday. And so we're going to do basically a drive up individual ceremony for each student. Um, each student will have two vehicles right now, with 5 people, so 6 altogether, including the graduate. They'll be called up in groups of 10, or at least staged in groups of 10. And then we'll call the student's name. They'll go across the stage. Their parents and guests will get out of the car and be right there at the stage, be able to cheer for them. Again, I call it like a front row seat. Um, they'll go across the stage, get their diploma, cover, and get back in the car and roll out. And so parents and students, they'll be able to decorate their cars. We kind of did a hybrid model of all the different ideas that we had. So a lot of people said like drive through individual ceremonies, but they'll be able to decorate their cars again to get a different feel. So we've never really had that part before. We'll record right in front of our school because it has a beautiful brick and columns and it looks really majestic and nice. So we think that'll be pretty awesome. And we're just going to make the best of it that we possibly can. So we'll record over 2 days, June 4th, from 8 to 1 for students with last names A through K. And then on June 5th, students with last names L through Z, that's from about 8 o'clock in the morning until about 1 o'clock. We'll film speeches from our proud of Pasquotank students, from our superintendent, from our board chairman, from myself, maybe the SG, I think the senior class president. All of those things that are normally happen at a graduation that we can try to recreate, we'll film those things, and then we'll put it all together and have a viewing party on the original graduation day, which is June 12th. Right at Pasquotank County High School, we'll have a big screen and you'll be able to see the whole thing from start to finish with little surprises along the way. And you'll be able to listen to it on YouTube, Facebook, all those things. So even if you can't make it to the drive-in, you'll be able to see it from the comforts of your own home.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think the idea of one of the ideas behind all this is really making a unique experience and really special for them. Like you said, you know, they unfortunately won't have the traditional graduation, but I like the idea of the front row seat, especially for the family. Sometimes, you know, you're sitting on the sides and you don't get the best view of your loved one kind of walking across the stage. So I think that'll be really good.
Sure. And the hard part to recreate would be the connection with their friends and fellow graduates. And it goes back to just what we were talking about, your daughter, your younger daughter who doesn't have access to a cell phone and normally is used to having these play dates. That's probably the most heartbreaking part because I can't recreate that because of safety reasons. I can't bring but a certain number of folks together. So that's the part that's pretty heartbreaking. But I have to follow the rules. I have to try to keep people safe. And it's kind of unfortunate, but it's where I am. We are also going to have senior week, and senior week is going to be June 1st through June 5th. And so June 1st, you'll be able to decorate your caps or have them decorated and your mask. And we'll ask you to take pictures and send them in to us, and we'll display those on our social media. On Tuesday, June 2nd, is Transformation Video Day. And so basically we want you to go from all right until into wow. So that could be you in your cap and gown. It could be in formal attire. It could be in a spiffy outfit. It could be in your PCHS t-shirt. So we want your transformation video. So send those to us on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, the 3rd, is Blackout. And we're going to dress in all black. And then we want you to send us your pics. That's also Chromebook turn-in day from 8 until 11 and then 1 until 6 p.m. And then, of course, the other 2 days are filming for graduation, which I spoke of earlier.
Good. I look forward to that week. Should be very, very fun. You know, with all the social media presence and all that. So now you kind of talked about school next year. So what about, I know we still have guidelines to follow, but what are your plans for the summer?
The summer, I got to figure out how to make sure that I'm not losing anybody. It's already difficult to put your hands on everybody, so to speak. And what I mean by that is making sure that all the kids have what they need. It's even harder doing it virtually. Like if you don't have contact with the parent, if the student doesn't email you back, like you don't know that they're okay. And that part is pretty concerning. And so figuring out a plan to ensure first that all my students are okay, and then that they get educated. And I know sometimes it should be in a different order, but first they have to be in the right state of mind. Um, they have to be well in order to learn. And so coming up with a plan, because what I can't do is I can't just move people out of certain areas. If they don't have internet where they live or don't have access to it, I'm not going to be able to change that immediately. But what can I do? What type of system can I have to ensure that they still have access and they have equal access and they won't be behind because of where they live or circumstance?
I had this discussion last week with Master Sergeant Coffee about this. We talked a little bit about how sometimes kids do have cell phones, they do have access, and just because they have cell phones doesn't mean they actually, that they particularly have internet access. When they're at school, we offer public Wi-Fi, so that doesn't mean they have cell phone service. And sometimes my cell phone service is very spotty as it is. So when it's spotty, and the other thing is we can't assume because they have a cell phone that they can do work on their cell phone, because I can't imagine expecting the same quality of work of somebody who's doing their stuff on a Chromebook or laptop compared to a cell phone. And finding out. So that's going to be key. Is trying to find out again how to level the playing field. That is going to be tough, and I'm glad you're thinking about that as we move on to the summer. But what about now? I'm not asking you as a principal. Just what do you hope? Are you going to try to do something this summer just for you? Good morning, Miss Meads. Join us here. Just for yourself and your family.
Well, I think finding that balance again, because sometimes my boys ask me questions like, "Oh, Mom, can we watch this movie or can we do this?" And sometimes my answer is no, and they're like, "Oh, you're always working," and then I feel super guilty, and so I have to figure out and put everybody on the back burner and say, "Okay, let's do this." And so trying to do that more often without them showing disappointment and then me giving in because I feel guilty. So making sure I kind of build that in so that they don't feel that way. Because sometimes as educators, we give so much to everybody else, and then our family kind of gets the short end of the stick. And
they do. And it's amazing though. And I don't know. This is now speaking more personally with your boys. I know my girls. They've grown up in school.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a different. So I don't know why I decided to kind of just go to the subject, but I think about how my girls, for the most part, have always enjoyed school, and sometimes having worked at a K-8 school, when those kindergartners or pre-K students are coming and they're fighting, not wanting mom to leave, and I'm like, I never had that situation. But then again, I was lucky enough that I always tell people the story. My oldest, Annalise, she literally almost learned to walk at school during a work day. I put her in front of a mirror and she saw herself and she just got up and started taking steps. And I'm like, no, you're not going to take your first steps here. So, do you have anything similar with your boys kind of growing up since you've been, their whole life, they know you've been in the school building?
They do. And they were mostly in when I was an administrator. And so they have a warped sense of things. They were growing up in the time when I was an assistant principal, and then I did 6 months as the interim principal in Currituck. And so they kind of thought mommy was the boss, so they thought that the whole school was their playground. And so it's funny because the truth is everybody else around raised them and made sure they were okay and looked out for them. And every time I turned around, they had snacks and cakes and were on people's computers. And so it was comforting because you knew you didn't have to worry. And so some of those long hours, they were right there every time at the game. So they get out at 2 o'clock, 2:30, and they're there with me until 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. But again, you didn't have to worry because they were taken care of. And so that part is pretty cool. The other hand, still feel guilty about them being there until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, just like you are.
Yeah, it is. I mean, my wife fell into that too because my girls have always gone where she's been at. Um, but I think sometimes they don't want me to be where they're at, so
Right.
they put so long. Well, cool. Well, this has been good. I appreciate it. I was saying this Crutch, Juvanda, for joining me this morning. It's cool. I just wanted people to get an insight of, you dealing with this whole transition, as an administrator, but also as a wife, a mom, all the things you've kind of having to work through to get through this. So we appreciate it. So I do want to thank you. By now, my coffee's pretty much cold. Takes less than 30 minutes, but this is Educators Drinking Coffee. I want to thank you. And tomorrow I have Miss Mika McDaniel. She is our instructional coach. She'll be talking a little bit about what she's been doing through this whole time, helping teachers and thinking about the future for next fall, what we're looking at. So that should be pretty good and interesting tomorrow. That was Wednesday. On Thursday, the broadcast is actually going to be in Spanish for those of you that normally tune in. So you may not understand. I'm going to see if I can put captions on this. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to just reach out to some of my Spanish folks here listening. And we're going to talk a little bit about the educational system. I think that's something I want to try to actually give a little bit more information out to parents. I know as a product of immigrant family, my parents, who still don't speak a whole lot of English, really didn't know how the educational system worked. They had a basic understanding from back home, but not really. So to support me, they did, but they couldn't. They had a lot of limitations. So I want to try to just give parents that a little bit of information on that, because we have many that are coming now, these freshmen, and the kids themselves, the parents don't know exactly what's the best kind of course of action if their goals are for their child to go to college or to start, into work as soon as they finish high school. So hopefully we'll get into that. And then Friday I have our assistant principal, Miss Leah Lane. She'll be joining us to send off for the weekend. And then I think after that, next week, I'm just going to do a couple days a week as we gearing up to finish our school. Make sure that if I have to be where I need to be, it's kind of tough. So I do want to thank you again, Juvanda, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is not my thing, so I was a little bit nervous, but I've been able to listen to a couple of them, and you have a way of making people feel pretty comfortable, same way you do face-to-face. So
I appreciate that. All right. Well, it's just a facade. I'm totally different person. So, all right. I will see you later.
All right.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.